And the councilman is joining me now, so good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, too. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
so let's get into this because the budget includes a whole lot of numbers, right? And if the vote on the budget were today, would you vote on it?
It's very hard to say that this budget is where we wanted to be right now in the city for the city council, for me and my colleagues. We're seeing still major cuts to things like libraries, as you mentioned. Yes, they were saved from the last round of cuts, but our libraries, our cultural institutions, our early education programs, they need to be saved here. We also need to make sure that the essential services, the social services, whether it's helping the asylum seekers that are here or helping other New Yorkers find housing, avoid homelessness, that those don't get the chopping block. So I think for me and a lot of colleagues, we're not there yet.
Okay.
And we have 2 months to get this right.
That's what this whole next 2-month process is about. When we had the mayor on this very show, I did ask him, and he doesn't call them cuts, calls them efficiencies. And he said that he once did ask those agencies to roll back 4%, kind of backed off of that a little bit, but the speaker, your speaker, Adrian Adams, says that they remain in the budget and would impact essential services. Besides the libraries, what are your thoughts overall?
Look, we have the social services agencies, like I mentioned, the ones that get people out of homelessness, help people with housing, and are helping the asylum seekers. They are feeling their pain right now when it comes to vacancies, so we need to fill those vacancies. We need to make sure that they're spared from more devastating cuts. We are seeing some good signs about where the city is right now, but there's obviously a lot of headwinds. And the mayor, here's what the mayor's right. You do have to make tough decisions as part of budgets, and especially when you don't know what the economic future of the city is going to look like over the next couple of years. And the asylum seekers is a real crisis, and he's totally right. Our state and federal partners need to step up and help us out some more. But on the same side, if you talk to New Yorkers out there, they want essential services still covered. And to address some of the problems we're talking about, like asylum seekers, we need to have agencies ready to be able to help house them and support them.
So let's talk about the asylum seekers and the migrant crisis, because you keep referencing it, right? A New York Post report, as of this taping, said the mayor actually wants FEMA to now ban cities from busing migrants to New York City. Is that the right approach?
Well, it's definitely a political game that's getting played here, and the mayor's right that we can't be the only place that's taking them in, and it's putting a crush on our city right now. We have to work as a country here, and that's where the federal government should be stepping in to make sure that there are resources to provide to places that are doing it, and that we're not playing this political game for people that want to run for president or have aspirations. And so these are human beings. So he's right to say that there's got to be some federal intervention, resource-wise and policy-wise.
But to say that they should stop being bused here?
You know, I think that we are a city that can help provide resources for them, so I think we do need to, we need to play a role in it. But there has to be some intervention to make sure that they're not just being sent here. Yeah,
I mean, the mayor also said the federal government isn't doing enough, and he used the fail word. They're failing New York City, and that it's a failure on their part. Do you agree with that kind of language?
Fail maybe is strong language, but we're not seeing the help that we need. And I do think that we have Senator Schumer and others who want to step in and help us out. As we know, federal government is quite bipartisan, quite toxic these days, and this issue is a sort of electrifies people's. So it's not surprising, I guess, I'd say. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk around the library issue, right? So libraries aren't safe from closing on the weekend just yet.
We are going to work to make sure that libraries get restored and that they keep their services. They are essential to New Yorkers. Early education up to seniors, everything in between, they are a hub, and they're the great equalizer in this city, amongst other things. So
is that a non-negotiable?
For me, it's very hard to get a budget done that's not that cuts our libraries and cuts them drastically.
You know, and there's this big topic about overtime. And that kind of factored into this conversation, right? And let me just look at my notes here, because $5 billion going to the NYPD, including almost $400 million for overtime. Now, the mayor slammed critics just last week of overtime spending, basically calling them anti-police. What are your thoughts?
Look, I support our police department, but you can do both. You can say, I support the NYPD, you want them out there, you want them doing their jobs, and you want to support them. But also, every agency should be discussing efficiencies. Are we spending too much on overtime in this agency? Perhaps. And you can be a fiscal conservative, and you can say that. You can say, I support the NYPD, but also I want to know how we're spending our money, are we doing it efficiently? So I think it's a little bit off balance to say that you can't do both. And historically, that's happened, even before the more recent movements under PD. We've always discussed what spending looks like.
And now this is what it's all about, right? The negotiations that are going to play out. The New York Progressive Caucus of the council said the mayor is actually refusing to meet with them. Is there any truth to that?
I don't know if there's any truth to that. I think the mayor did a virtual briefing for all of us. I think when you have priorities with the mayor's office, I've always found them receptive to pick up the phone. We pushed really hard for arts education last year.
So why are they saying it? Because they put out a statement last night saying he refused to meet with them. They were a part of that virtual meeting? Is it that they're not meeting in person just yet?
I think I think perhaps maybe not they're meeting in person. I'm not actually sure what it means. I found them to be receptive and open to having conversations. I'm not in the progressive caucus at this point, but certainly I feel they're receptive to hearing our priorities.
All right. So how do you envision the negotiations going? Right? Do you think that this will all go down in good faith? There were some issues last year with education and whether or not things were slipped into the budget without the council really knowing. How do you envision this all playing out?
Look, I think the council is all over this budget right now. We are ready to dig in and make sure we get our priorities funded. We want to make sure that agencies are filling positions, that the asylum seeker crisis also is getting addressed, like the mayor, and that we're not slashing essential services right now. It's not going to be easy to get to that landing spot. I have faith that we will, and that we're all going to come in good spirit. But obviously, this is going to be tough because the financial situation of the city is in a tough spot.
So a give and a take, and a non-negotiable is talking to the mayor saying, hey, we need those essential services. That's not changing.
We need to make sure that in the recovery, even last year we talked about like sanitation and services like that, socials, but right now we want to make sure that we're not passing a budget that's going to slash things like that.
Okay, and when you look at what's playing out across New York City and then New York State, there's the state budget that there's a framework that looks like it's going to go through and pass. There are issues around the MTA, charter schools, bail reform. How does that impact what's happening in the New York City budget?
So much. So the state budget has so much policy stuff in it. All the things you're mentioning are really hard policies that are going to affect us. But things like the MTA, they cost money, and we have to pay for those too. The unfortunate thing is the budget is coming about a month late now from Albany, so we had to put our executive budget out before we knew what was in their budget, so now we're figuring that out. That's the first time since I've been in office that that's happened. It used to happen all the time. So that really hurts us because we don't know exactly what we're paying for yet when it comes to Albany. There's all the other policy stuff too, the criminal justice stuff, things like that. That will affect what happens on the ground here as we govern the city, but it costs money. And the state budget, we're going to find out what the price tag is this week.
So it's a big unknown.
It's a big unknown. I think we've been following it and we've been budgeting for it and kind of having a sense of it. Some things got better, so that helps us. But and now we have certainty. But certainly the state budget means so much to ours. And so now that it's finally getting to hopefully a closing place, we'll have a better certainty of what happens.
Let me sneak this in real quick. There's this bill introduced by your fellow Councilman Justin Brannan about parking ticket fines and speeding tickets and how the rich should pay more and those that aren't as wealthy should pay less than the fines. Would you support this bill? Would you vote on it?
Look, I think it's an interesting idea. And I'm obviously very close to Councilman Brannan, so folks know. And I think that this is an idea that people have talked about for a long time, is to make fines. Fines are meant to be a disincentive. So the idea here is to actually disincentivize people. And that's why I think it's a clever idea to help encourage better behavior in the city. So I think it's something we're going to look at. I think it's an interesting idea. And I think I really do appreciate when people bring these new ideas to the city council.
Worked in Europe.
Yeah,
seemed to work overseas in Europe. Councilmember Powers, good to see you as always.
You too. Thanks so much.
Keep us posted on the negotiations, all right?